All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We are a little bit late. It is 6:49. We're at the Rosewood. This is our standard work session. Normally, back in the day, it would be back there, but we've been posting our work sessions up here just so that everybody has a microphone in front of them and we can all be recorded on camera. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first item on the agenda is committees and commissions. We have 3 of those to discuss. We'll go ahead and start with the rec advisory. I know it's a little out of order on the agenda, but you all should have a packet in front of you. Councilman Cooley and Coach Black and I have been kind of working on this, just trying to put together an advisory committee for Parks and Rec. And there is a lot to read through here. Obviously, this is the first time that we're all looking at this as a team. Just some bylaws, purposes, how meetings would be held, duties, liaisons, everything is kind of covered in here. I think we've been working on this for about 3 or 4 weeks now. Just trying to bring in a new piece into our Parks and Rec department. A lot of other cities have this. Easily does. I want to say I think Central and Clemson both do as well. And just something that's really helped kind of steer their Parks and Rec department. So I will go ahead and let you guys take a quick peek at that and then jump in with any questions.
I'll add in a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Typically committees are made up of council members. So you may want to call this a commission or a board. Just for clarity's sake, so that way whenever you do appoint committees, it'll be made up of council members. Council members cannot serve on committees because that would be dual office holding. So, if you have a lot of interest in a committee, a board or a commission, maybe you can have a large commission, but typically smaller, it's easier to get quorums for those meetings. Your ordinance, you have an ordinance on committees. So when we get to a committee, a true committee, I will let you know what that says, and I'll sort of give you a recommendation on that. But that's really it in terms of the advisory boards or advisory commissions.
I know this one says 7 to 11, but we are smaller. I think this was taken from a larger municipality. We could probably do something more like 3 to 5, I assume, and that would probably work pretty well for us.
It kind of depends on your volunteer pool who are willing to come and come to regular meetings and assist Coach and all. You know, Coach would probably be, he may be, because he's here. He would probably be your staff liaison, but you might get a backup in case he's out of town or something or has something else going on that night. But he's going to be your primary contact with that board office.
I was just going to say, so I talked to the director for Easley, and they had it's called the Rec Committee, and there's 3, 2 are council members, and I can't remember the third one. Maybe they were all 3 council members, but it was just a small group. It was 3 of them, and basically they have a meeting like once a month on their own time, and then they come back and give counsel what's going on that area basically.
Yeah, several cities will have a council liaison with a particular department, maybe like in Pendleton, the police liaison basically, and they serve sort of the committee thing. When you have a committee, you have to keep minutes, just like the advisory boards have to keep minutes, and they have to be published so that the public can attend. So I guess you can keep your public pretty busy if you have a bunch of them, but they should be okay.
Yeah, I was going to say easily. I want to say they had at least 8 or 10. I think maybe it was 8 committees. It was different, you know. They had like a rec, and there was tourism, it was all kinds of crazy.
But wasn't usually only council members, and then the city, the residents could attend, but there was nobody from outside council that was actually on the committee. And what they did had the number, I think it was 3. So there would be one person that was the chair, there would be 2 more council people. Then on the next committee would be 3 more people, and every council person ended up with 1 committee as being the chair. And then, but you might be on 3 different committees when you rotated through everybody trying to do that. But I think as a resident, you could only attend, you couldn't actually be on the committee. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what it was back then.
You may be right. I know there was 2 council members. Maybe it was 3. It was either 2 or 3 of them. But they just basically reported to council. They would have a meeting with the rec department and go over stuff. And then they would report that back to council, so the rec didn't have to be here all the time. So
Yeah, maybe it was 2, and the 3rd person was the department chair.
It might be, yeah.
Maybe that was who that 3rd person was. But again, it was only those 2 people, and then the residents could just attend. They could have input and stuff like that, but anything that they talked about, they didn't. If I understand correctly, these don't have decisions. They can't make decisions. You can only recommend. So they could recommend back to the full council. And my question would be, does it happen through the chairperson or through the department? That would be a part of that.
You could do, I don't know that there's a rule, I think you could do either, but more often than not, your department person is going to be more likely to have time for you to come, because you can't guarantee that, that would require 2 nights for a volunteer if it's during the month. But I think you could do either, or both. Sorry for the waffly answer.
Okay. Yeah, we're getting ready for the walk. So, good time.
Do we have an idea who we're going to put on this board? Have any concerns yet or interest?
Soon, if you look at applications,
So is our plan to have council people on or not? You said no, but then
Council people can be on committees, but they should not serve on boards, because that would be dual office holding.
and they shouldn't be chairman of that committee.
They can be chairman of a committee, but not on a board or advisory commission.
I think one of the reasons that we kind of talked about it was just to help the rec department have to where they don't feel like they don't have someone to go to, kind of like that middle person, to where they can, instead of having to get with Andrea or somebody, they can just kind of have this meeting, they can unload everything they've got, and then we can kind of work it back, so forth. Because the mayor's pretty busy. So.
No.
can I speak on that for since Cole brought it up? Yeah, that's the whole purpose. If y'all want the purpose of why we want to do it, is that the whole incident we had with the last administration, I wasn't a fan of it. So I believe that we have some people that can look at the whole picture and get all the information that we need to come back and relay back to us what we need to do. And I don't feel comfortable having that a single decision on my shoulders. Be honest with you, I do not feel comfortable with that. So the basis of that package, like she said, like Mary said, is big. That's a rough track. I came up with that. It's a rough track. So I just want y'all to kind of peek through it. We can pick. Glad she's be able to tell us what's right and what's not right. I'm taking notes on that. Because I feel like we do need to establish something. I would love to get something established before fall season starts, because that's why I tend to have a tendency to have a problem with issues. And so that'll be around August. Yeah, August when we start football stuff, football and cheer. Since cheer it is one of my biggest issues. I just want to kind of get out the purpose of why I look so heavy into doing it. I don't want everything to be on our shoulders. I think as a community we need to come together and make a decision. If this coach can coach, if that person can, what's our guidelines? I'm still working on policies. Unfortunately, our rec department, I don't know if y'all know this, our rec department don't have any policy. When I first started, the first thing I right now has a solid foundation, policy, procedures, what we need to go with, what needs to be done in particular situation. So I'm thinking once we get that, get this a committee set up, we work on the policies, we can tweak the policies, work out, fit our department to make it grow. We are growing. I don't know if y'all noticed that, but we're growing. I just did our numbers today for our spring sports. We got 307 kids signed up for spring sports. And this will continue to grow. I have people contacting me wanting to leave other rec departments to come here. So it's just, the more we get, the more kids we have, the more families I got to deal with. And it's best to have a guideline for them. This is what's going to happen. This is our rules, our regulations, and we got to stick and have something firm to stand on. Right now we have nothing. So it's a free fall.
So with the committee, you'll have certain things that you guys want to work on. And say you have like 5 different topics that you want to work on, that you want to get. Are you want to present all those after they actually hash it out at one time, or you want to bring one thing before the council at a time?
I think it's case by case. You got to look at it case by case. If we have a situation that comes up where we have to talk about. Prime example, I'm sure that y'all been around for a while. Y'all know what happened with the whole chair play last year. And so that type of situation where I'm like, we have to sit down and talk about this and try to figure out what we need to do to make it, to get it going forward. That would be case by case. We just kind of play with that. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that I still got. My mind is turning all the time. Y'all know my mind is all the time trying to make it better. But like some of these facilities that I want to rename or things like that, department committee, but we can bring it to the board, to the committee first before we go to the board. You know what I'm saying? Just get everybody input before we take that to the next step. Where I say, let's go to the council meeting. They decide to be beautiful, why not? Wow, waste of time. We're just trying to figure out things like that. You know, so just having somebody with another set of eyes, another opinion, and to be able to get things done.
Okay, so if you want a committee or a commission and you want some standard guidelines or policies, will you be doing that, or you want the committee or the board or whoever to come up with the policy?
All right, so the committee it's going to be a set of eyes on your policy. All right, so that's 2 different sets that I'm talking about. So right now, the committee is going to be the ones who kind of give us the guidance to try to correct anything within the policies. Once we do the policy procedures, we can say that we the committee get together, we sit down, go through it, and see what works or doesn't work, and then we can send them Miss Mary, and she can go through it, and then she can take her old school, get a red pen, that's all walking through things. Try to get that, kind of read it in, and then we can come back as a council and say we need to make the committee make those adjustments, and then we can take that information and present it to the council. You know what I mean? That's how I see it.
So the eyes and ears kind of help you better understand that.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because when I started 3.5 years ago, I was putting in the ocean test. If you're going to swim, you're going to sink. Either or. And luckily I got a directorship background from this board, and I did that for almost 10 years. So I know what we need to do for smart procedures and things like that, and work on that. And we don't get that established when I leave. You know what I'm saying? I can retire at 53. Yeah, so when I leave, when I decide to leave, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I want to make sure we got a good sound foundation for whoever steps in that role. We appreciate that. Yeah.
I don't think, like with Easily, they do, it's more than just, like, they do like budgeting. Like, what can the rec spend? So, yeah, like, we're going to do some fundraisers this year. So then taking that money and go, okay, we got $8,000 in fundraising this past year. We have that to spend. That's something else that committee can sit down, go over what he needs to buy, what he doesn't have to try to get a hold of somebody and ask somebody that he can literally have somebody that can sit there and go, okay, well, let's break it apart, and then go over everything, figure out what they're going to spend, and we can bring that back. Everybody can get a view of it, and then we can vote. Just to help out all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that they're trying to do, they're not able to do because they don't have anyone to help them do that.
Yeah, so the committee would be more than just, change the policy.
Right, yeah, it's not just policy, it is with everything.
Look at everything.
But you did bring up a good point about fundraisers and raising money for the rec. I believe that money should stay with the rec.
Actually, that money can stay with the rec, but it needs to go directly into the general fund, and then council will put that back into, however the council feels about it, put money back into the rec department budget.
What could we do to change that policy to where it doesn't go into the general fund and it stays with the rec department if they raise that money?
You
What would we have
you
to
can
do?
have that as a standard policy, but it has to go into your general fund. Otherwise, you have to change the statement.
Right, you can just
Right.
adjust where it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But easily, so they run off of tourism tax, so it's a little bit different. So I think it's a lot different, honestly, but so we wouldn't have that, but again, the fundraising would be able to release so they would know, and then again,
But would we be able to track it when he does his reports?
You'd have to let it, you'd have to let it like you do now.
So it would still be,
You would see it go to general fund, and then you would see it leave general fund to go to rec.
and we don't have that.
We don't.
I don't have any of that.
Everything's in one account.
I just want to make sure
So if
that it gets what the rec.
You can break that down.
Right,
So you
that's
can
what we're
see,
trying,
he raised $2,100, $2,100 came out of general fund into rec, and you can see that line adjustment.
What Jeff's talking about is probably a better way to discuss the different accounts,
Oh, right.
separation, and funding, and
Separate.
going forward.
I like his idea, I would love to go there, but.
We talked about segregated accounts.
It's a whole separation, yeah.
Rec
Not bad, yeah.
That's probably what you guys today, or you probably focus on, is the committee necessary, not necessary? You know, it's the issue with the person, I'd like to read through everything, just to make sure. Yeah, but y'all got time, I'm looking at trying to start something, and all this.
And Coach can also, there's all kinds of things that they can do. I've seen rec advisory boards make recommendations on maybe new facilities that you need, maybe new sports or activities, because I'm not always up on the newest things that kids are really excited about that maybe are non-team sports even.
And that's one thing that I try to focus on too as well, is because I'm looking at, I got daughters that does more different types of stuff. They're not just athletic, they like to do art and things like that too. So I'm big on trying to include everything. And then so my background comes from disability board, I'm big on special needs too as well. So I'm trying to figure out new ways to incorporate things like that to have that board, that community, whatever y'all want to call it, it just gives another opinion. Like I said, you can't make decisions slowly from all like that.
What is your goal, I guess, a council appointing, so to speak, and then some citizens from the rec department and so forth, then, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I would love to have, like, I don't know, like,
Diversity.
I would like to have a parent or two, because you get that parent aspect from it, then, you get a question on, I got a rec right now, and everything, but have somebody else, somebody from the council, just to have a variety of different people, because, people see things in different ways, and so everybody being matters. And that's what we can get better. I tell people all the time, I'm not doing this by myself. It takes a community to make this thing work. So we got to make it, that's the only way I see we can get it to work. So to have more people on it.
Yeah, I was going to say one quick thing too. The Easley has, or used to have, what's called the board of coaches. And she said that she loved that because then the coaches knew exactly what they needed for each sport and so forth. So if they needed to get sponsorship money or anything like that, they knew what they needed to get for that specific sport, so to speak. But that would be something like what he's talking about. Like you have coaches, it wouldn't be council, that'd be just strictly parents and stuff. They'd be on that board and
Then we bring recommendations back, I'm assuming, to the mayor and. Right. Is that what I'm understanding, right?
correct. Yeah, they'd have like their own little meeting and they would have their own thing and they could either report back to the committee or the council directly.
Right. If you have council appointee, you can bring it to the next meeting, that day.
I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea.
What's your goal, Madam Mayor?
My goal, I think it would be a good thing for us. Before I came here, I sat on the rec advisory board for the county for a year and a half, and I saw how much good the advisory board does for the county. I mean, you're kind of queuing up all the things that council needs to discuss. You're basically doing a lot of the legwork, you're having the conversations, you're building out the questions, and then all we need to do is go through it regular commission, and then they're ready to make a decision. So it really does take a lot of, it does two things. It takes a lot of the legwork away from everything having to come to council and mayor or department heads, but it also brings in members of the community to become a part more of what the city is doing in the Parks and Rec department. So it does a lot of good things.
I had read through, it looks like a great scope of what they do. Good, to be honest, we do that.
You can adjust it too. This is just the first draft.
Be lazy, give us a couple of weeks to read over. Maybe the next work session, maybe we can discuss in 5 minutes, if there's anything I don't see.
I'm going to bring these back up in May. I'll give you guys 2 months on all of these.
Thank you, all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
The next one is the Citizens Advisory Committee. This is kind of the same thing. I don't have any information on it other than the email chain that Mary sent out, and I should be on all of your desks. Same kind of thing, but in a different way. So it would not be for just the Parks and Rec, arts, culture, tourism, stuff like that. It would be kind of citywide. In the same way that the Parks and Rec commission or board would kind of start conversations around various things, this would be citywide. So ideas on new businesses, ideas for buildings, basically everything. They would kind of be like almost the eyes and ears of the city, like what's going on, things that are happening, things that are kind of bubbling up, to bring those topics to discussion and then up to council eventually. It was one of the things that I ran on, one of the things that actually Ms. Edwards had actually mentioned to me a long time ago, that she saw working very well in other municipalities, and so something that I wanted to try to bring to Liberty. Same thing, it could be probably about 5 members, would probably be about that size. I envision it as maybe 2 business owners, building owners, and then kind of 3 members of the community to kind of get the business perspective, but also just the standard constituent perspective. And this is kind of a packet of a bunch of different committees and commissions. They would probably meet, as Coach Black was mentioning for the rec committee, they may meet on a normal schedule, they may meet as needed. I would kind of envision this maybe quarterly, just to give them time to talk with people in the community, see what kind of issues are coming up, those kind of things, and then maybe meet quarterly was what I was kind of envisioning for this, but totally open for discussion.
I think easily, and I can't remember the name of the other one, and I go back to these just because I talked to them about it a lot. I think, again, I wish I could remember the actual name, but they had one that was just for, I guess more like parks and arts and so forth. And I think they met like once every 3 months or so, and we go over stuff. And she had mentioned they kind of like a certain person for each little category, and that was kind of like their own little thing they work on. Just an idea. I don't know if you want to break it down that deep, but just basically like, I guess one person was kind of like in arts, and I was an art person who got elected, and they would bring back art stuff, and we'd have one that would do, like, he's big on trails and stuff, so you'd have one person who would be like into the trails and nature walks and all that. Each one had their own little thing they work on, and they would just brainstorm together.
Again, we'll bring this back up in May. It's just something to kind of get you guys started on. A couple of these things have come up over the last couple of months, and even like this one has kind of come up over the last couple of years. So just wanted to make sure that we get started on discussing that one. Then the last committee or commission is crosswalk. There are a couple places in Liberty that we are going to need some crosswalks. do need crosswalks. So they would kind of get the ball rolling on establishing where they're needed, how to fund them, all that kind of stuff.
The only you want to run the rec, it's DOT roads, DOT's got to be strong in all. I've encouraged you to reach out to them, they may initiate the process for us.
Yeah, they said they could send an engineer after the traffic, so they can do it.
We might be able to push them to help fund it or pay something together.
Yeah, it's one across the path.
We would run a city hall too, really bad.
City Hall,
People speed up on that road. As soon as they see you walking.
Are we still planning on doing the restaurant on the corner down there?
Ponchos, old Ponchos.
I believe so.
Is that probably need to cross over?
It probably will too. I think it's just gonna park people across the street. I believe. So at least 3.
All three of those are DOT roads, so you know, reach out to them immediately, just kind of get them started on the process, and maybe they'll take it up and run with it for us.
That'd be great.
I think you had mentioned about another committee. It was like a beautification committee.
Possibly, it was something that somebody had mentioned to me a while back, but I think we're just gonna kind of do it through this community. I don't think we need to do a committee for it. If we do down the road, we can always work on it. Yeah. Try to start with 3. Not have so many committees or commissions to maintain. So that is everything on the committees and commissions. Next up was the noise ordinance update. We had actually all voted on first reading of the noise ordinance update, and then it kind of got sidelined for a little bit while we all discussed it. We need to really vote on it in April. It needs to be
One of the things we asked for the last work session we talked about was for Chief Taylor to go over it. I think he actually was supposed to review it and bring us back his thoughts on it as well.
Are you able to do that, Steve?
I'd be part of it.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I could be part of it. I think some of the issues that we're running into is what is an appropriate time for it to stop. In another 3 months, 8:30 is still going to be somewhat high outside. I'm thinking how it's looked at when it gets dark at 5:30. Somebody's still mowing the grass at 9 o'clock. A lot of cities have it cut off at 9 o'clock. I think 9 o'clock is good. I think it's fair. I think you really start muddying the waters if you turn around and you say, during daylight saving times, you can only do it at 7 o'clock because it starts at 5:30. A lot of the mowers nowadays have lights on the front, headlights on the front. It's kind of like somebody riding a bike at night, you're supposed to have a light on it. Some people take flashlights to their bicycles. Not allowed to do that. So I think that's kind of where we're at with that, and that's up to the council to vote on as far as the time frame, because that's the biggest issue that we're running into. And then it starts talking into, bear with me, and what basically sets it up as far as what is unreasonably loud, right? Because, if you go downtown and they're having a band play, walk by and say, that can be loud. Or not, you can be inside enjoying the music, but it's not that loud. So somebody operating a mower, a weed, or a blower, what is unreasonable? And I think that's all. That's up to the officer's discretion. A lot of cities say it's up to the chief's discretion or the responding officer's discretion on does he deem it unreasonable? Is that really going to affect that person's livelihood? And I think it's just because you're involved with a dispute with a business owner or a neighbor, we shouldn't vote on that based on one person. I think we should look at coming into as a whole, as a city, and go, is it reasonable? So that's up to council and the mayor. It talks about planning the audible. Some cities are 10:30. They talk about construction noises. Some allow construction all the way up until 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And we just have to figure out what we want to do as a city to be fair to everyone, not just one individual or a select few. there's really not one. The amplified noise is what it refers to, which is 10 o'clock. And I don't consider a lawnmower as a device that's amplified. You're usually getting more amplifiers, car stereo, something that's going to increase the general noise.
And you're talking about just residential areas, correct?
Correct. You know, I responded to an individual years ago when the neighbor's TV was too loud. You went over there and you could hear it. And then you go to the residents and talk to the owner, and it was an elderly man whose hearing aids weren't working, so he had it up so loud so he could hear it a little bit. It wasn't unreasonable for him, it was just for the neighbor.
We core commercial downtown, but we're talking about having residents in that area also. Is that considered residents, or do we need to make sure that we carve that out? So,
You can have different noise lines. You don't want to make it too difficult because you don't have a huge police department. You have I would consider it a medium size, and I hope that it's not meant to be derogatory, but so you don't want to have like tons of different pockets of different noise ordinances. Some cities have it so that, like if you go to a bar and they have music on the weekends, they may want to play till 10, 11, 12, whatever their last call may be. But if basically, I look at that in terms of if you're in a downtown commercial area, I believe sound is going to travel from business to business. So I don't think it's reasonable, like if you're in a neighborhood and your neighbor's playing, having a party and having loud music next door. So the way I've written this in the past, and I may have written it in here, I don't remember, I'll have to look at it again, but what is that if you're in a business district and your music travels into a residential neighborhood, that's when the police can say, turn the music down. But if it's just business to business or it's street to street, and you have a mix of commercial and residential, I mean, if you move into a commercial place to live, you I'm not saying you buy everything. You don't want like someone testing jet engines next to you. But you have to accept that cities are louder than residential areas and commercial districts are. So that's definitely an issue that you might ask the planning commission to look at if you want to have a different thing for commercial areas or not, because they have looked at the different areas in town, but that's the way they handle it.
yeah, I just think that when we're talking about that commercial area, when we've designated that for commercial, then we should understand that if we allow residential in there also, that residential is going to have to live in core commercial area.
If you have an apartment above a bar or a restaurant, it's going to be loud. Yeah.
You have to know that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the other things I was going to touch on, was the time frame for commercial for downtown. I think that if we want to look at bringing business in and having more places occupied, I think cutting off at 10 for amplified sound is early. I think that, go up till midnight. Does that make sense? Because if you're going to get more of a bar and grill or no vacancy, they want to stay open, or we're having some type of event downtown that the city's not sponsoring, but they are, and they shut the streets down. I don't think we should limit them to 10 o'clock, because I think that will hinder us getting more business down there, especially for us to grow with large scale business.
Bands and stuff playing, you won't have one.
Good point.
I think that Greenville, there's people live downtown there, so they're having all kind of events, whatever, bars open at 2 a.m. with bands inside. Some people have like an apartment, or not an apartment, I guess it'd be a
Condos or
condo in like New Orleans, and they're having parties 24/7. So I would change the core commercials. Yeah, but I'm saying I would change it. I do like going up in time, because if you're having events and so forth, then having to cut off 10, different. But I think we need to change both of those. Core should have its own. I won't worry about anybody living inside that. You chose to live inside that district, so.
I tend to early for residential.
You think it's early for residential? I mean, I agree too, but that's
Just my comment. That's it. I mean, we may vote on something totally different, but I just tend as a residential. We want to go and have a.
Residential is tough though, because you have such a variety of people living. You might have elderly people, but you also may have elementary kids, you know. So that's a tough issue.
we can't wait for Christmas break. We're on the out front, so we can get out. Everybody we're watching football. That's music. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. So we're going to attempt to vote on this in next week. So give it some thought.
So please be prepared for that discussion.
Yes. So
And it was the second reading.
it would be. So do your thoughts. I'm thinking over the next day, please. Let's see. Next up is availability fees. It's okay. Mary, I know you and I have talked about this briefly. You said you were going to try to bring some stuff tonight on the difference between availability fees and impact fees. Gerald and I also talked as soon as I walked in this evening about the difference between those two as well and how we could apply those to Liberty. We do have the new development coming in on Old North, 110 townhouses, which will likely start, what are we in, 2026, probably end of this year. And then I was approached by another developer in the last 2 weeks about another area, not even remotely close to 110 townhouses, but still a smaller development, also within the city limits. I turned them to the city engineer for now to confirm sewer capacity first before we even started the conversation. But there is some small pockets of growth happening, and we just want to make sure that basically we have something in place before these all get started.
Yeah. There are two things, sure, really three categories. And Gerald, jump in if you want to, or anybody. One is development impact fees. If you were looking at fees that are non-water, sewer related, there are recreation, police, fire, school. Those you have to have an engineering study and to support those, because basically with the development impact fee, you can't address problems you already have. You can only address the impacts of the new thing. So if you have a road that needs widening, and then you have a development that comes in and adds 100, but it already needed widening, you can't really smack them with that development impact fee, and that's why the engineering study is required. Sewer and water is excluded from that because I think they're regarded as absolutely necessary. Some cities will have development impact fee per residential unit. Some will have it, maybe they'll exclude single-family duplex and only have development impact fees for larger developments. So that's one way to handle it. And again, you're only addressing the impact of the facility, not something that's pre-existing. So you can't pay for stuff that you already need the money for, unfortunately. So, sewer capacity. You reach a point where you are, you realize that you're going to run out of sewer capacity. That's really a good time to talk about sewer reservation. Basically, you have a developer that comes in and they're going to need sewer capacity, and they want to reserve capacity in the facility for a certain amount of units that they're going to build. And it doesn't necessarily have to be residential units. It could be a large manufacturing facility that uses a lot of water or is going to have, sufficient or a significant amount of sewer capacity. So typically in those, you would do it by ordinance, and basically you would set up a procedure where a developer or or a builder would come in and file a request letter for the amount of sewer capacity that they needed, and you would keep a queue of the projects. And basically, you would enter into an actual reservation agreement with them. And one of the things that I don't like is people might come in and buy a bunch of capacity and then not build. You want to have a clock ticking on their building process or working through the building permit process. You could have some exemptions. If DHEC or DES says that you cannot add capacity or there's a problem with it, you're going to have an out for that. If the development will not agree to certain, or they don't pay the money once they've got the building permits, then you would keep their reservation fee, and then their facility or their development would be considered abandoned. You might base the fee, depends on how many gallons or how many tens of thousands of gallons they need per day, and that might work towards the fee. So it wouldn't be a flat fee, you pay $1,000 and you get so much capacity. It's going to be based on that capacity that you come up with a multiplier. Because again, you were looking at paying for the impact of what they're doing. Although you're doing it as a sewer reservation thing. I like to make it non-refundable, but some ordinances will have it so that you can, let's say I come in, I pay you $20,000 for sewer capacity. I realize I don't have the funding to build my development. You might want to have it so you can turn it in and get their money back. Or that they could sell it to another developer, so that you're maybe not losing the development thing, but that new development would have to comply with your clock ticking process. Or they could just abandon it and, walk away from it. You would set requirements for them so that if they don't stick with those requirements, then they have abandoned it, and then you keep the reservation fee. I don't know, sitting here today, and that's something that maybe we need to make certain that we understand exactly how much capacity you have left at that. Y'all use 2 facilities, right?
I can give you the number. Actually, in the late night, I said, everybody got out, I spoke to Clint, they increased it an hour or so. And we actually reached out. So we reached out to DES, where they are now, the former DES, and then kind of short of our capacity. On the books, we were short of 147,700 some odd gallons of capacity. However, it hadn't been short since 2023. There's 44,000 down there, 44,000 some odd gallons. So we down to about 104,000 gallons. Old North Road subdivision will take another 44,000 gallons of our capacity. Puts 60,000 gallons. DES assigns capacity based on the type of unit. A single-family dwelling will get 400 gallons. It's assigned 400 gallons per day of our capacity. Now, 2 things to keep in mind. We can't buy more capacity. The county's put a moratorium on selling capacity because it's so valuable. Where we are today, as our capacity dwindles, we can't afford to build our own plants. There's nowhere else we can buy capacity from. We got to just start looking at where do we want to be when we grow up, I guess, for lack of better words. Because we're sitting on 60,000 gallons roughly because we've already promised Bill Norris Road that they're going to take off and do what they got to do. 60,000 gallons sounds like a lot.
Which is why I already sent that new development. I told them to go straight to city engineer and get that number first. Don't even come to City Hall and try to talk about a development if you don't know.
We almost got to start talking about what is our long-term plans. John mentioned today, we're talking about some developments in our Waffle Plant. How much is that going to use? Waffle Plant's talking about an expansion in 9 lines. How many gallons of our capacity is that going to get up as they do these things? What's the most important commodity we have right now? Honestly, without sewer, we can't grow. That's the reason the county got a sewer business for the industrial part. I looked at the favorable versus impact, fees, and so forth and so on, and I want to see something move fast personally. I know the government moves at a slower pace than I do.
That's why it's on the agenda tonight.
At a minimum, the county charges $2,340. I hang on the last one and see exactly. But if you go to the county website, this is what me and Clint were
talking about, they charge $2,340 per residential unit per single family dwelling. Now, your condos and things like that have a little bit different design, but for lack of better words, the 110 homes, when you have 44,000 gallons or 104,000 available right now. I don't think we can do availability fees from what I've been reading, what Lynn told me today. Availability fees kind of changed a little bit a few years back. But you can do the impact fee, and you can actually use the actual cost, what we purchased for back then for that. The money needs to be set aside, like Mary said, in a special account for.
You're talking about a reservation.
Yeah. Because,
Well, there's no impact. If you impact fees, if you don't use it within a certain number of years, you have to give it back.
and we're actually looking at several things. I mean, we've got infrastructure that's falling apart. You know, we own the building for the upgrade to the plant. You know, we got a plant that was built 30 years ago, 30-year life cycle. So if we're on the hook with our proportion amount of that plant upgrade. I mean, it's something we've got to look at long term. You can say that the planning commission did the entire package. I think short term, we need to catch the low-hanging fruit. We know what the sewer availability fees are. Send the resolution to the commission on get back. That's quick. Let's get it in place before they get here from Open Arts. That would generate $255,400 something of availability fees right there that would go toward our paying infrastructure.
I would also recommend, if you only have 60,000 gallons left after that loan, I think you should reserve 10 to 20,000 gallons and not give those out, because if you have a tremendous flow days, you're going to exceed your capacity, and you're going to get dinged on that from the state.
We actually exceed our capacity already because of our infrastructure and so forth. I think it was Helen up there, we put 1.2 million gallons into the plant in one day. So that's what this money needs to be focused on, is fixing some of those problems. Because all our sewer lines were put in the 50s and 60s with a 25, 30-year life cycle. Well, we 50, 60 years down, and we haven't touched half, three-quarters of them.
And don't think that's just Liberty.
This is everybody. And this is a fun fact. As county administrator in 2016, Liberty's done their consent order for sewer. Part of that consent order, we actually had a meeting with REWAs and different players. At that point in time, the sewer liability at Liberty alone, just the sewer line, not the water or anything else, was estimated $26 million. 2020's come around, this is 10 years ago. We're probably sitting on $50 million right now. We're kicking the can down the road. This is the start of that plan.
We're definitely not the only municipality. We've got a gentleman here who's on council they're also dealing with the same issues. They're actually looking at doing an impact fee study. So that's why we wanted to put it on the agenda tonight. Everybody's looking at options right now.
We also, in terms of sewer rehab too, several of my cities have done, there's an interesting option right now. Instead of replacing lines, you can go in and it's called, well, I call it grouting. I don't know what they call it, but yeah, and you coat the inside of the, and you seal any cracks or anything from the inside.
One Palmetto, I think it's right there around Bill, that was done several years ago that way.
But you can, that's something that we probably need to get to explore grants for that kind of work. The skip money obviously is all dried up, but that's something that a lot of things do. And that process is amazingly quick in terms of, they go in and do the lines, but you don't have to dig it all up. Whereas if you're actually replacing either clay or maybe double iron or even PVC, you've got to dig it up. But there's some options out there in terms of
That's who the Public Works Director at the time. Yeah, actually, by this down inside the Public Works Director at that point in time. It's probably 12 to 13, something like that there. But they actually run that machine and blow the lines through there. They had an issue with it. They don't tear the road in. It's this actual neat process. They have the same life cycle. I don't know.
How much does the extended life be?
They said, almost 25, 30 years at the time. I don't know.
Fountain Man just redid their project phase 2. They resealed the inside of their pipes from the down Main Street down there. So if you're going to change over there, I know you can get on the inside on there. Also, we discussed about REWA possibly helping us with our infrastructure. They're getting brand new infrastructure, they're getting brand new pipes.
They bought that system, didn't they? You know.
Yes, they did. So if Liberty's hurting, why could we not bring up that option? How much money is Liberty making off of the sewer rate that we have now? Can we compare what we're making versus what we're gonna fix if you go with people?
We want part of that conversation. They made a change now in 2016. So the county got involved too with that fund. I know I was there, but 2016 was like $25 million and they were actually willing to do some work with the city, but the city wanted the money to pay for the work. It would have paid for the rest of the stuff other than that. I think the biggest thing on sewer, what we got to do is first off, we got to figure out what we have. We don't have the full system map. You got to map the system. Once you map the system, you can't go to the government and ask for money and say, I want $25 billion, and I'll tell you what I do with it. No, you got to say, this is what I've got, this is the life cycle, this is the problems, this is what I need, this is where it's going. If we can get targeted and find, we can get the money to fix the system first. But we got to have money to get targeted and find. That's where this helps us get to that start.
Well, we'll look at our options there. Bring back some ideas. We're going to put this one on the next work session. I don't want to start this one until May.
Let me ask you a question. This is just me. Based off Section 1, this is a Mary question. Section 61950, it's got a procedure for implementing impact.
Right.
And based off of that right there, it has to go to the planning commission resolution. When we send this to the planning commission now, let them start to work, run a fuel train down the road.
You're saying pass it on to them before we even discuss it?
Yeah, I mean, pass it on, let them start too. I mean, get the train rolling as quick as possible. Because if we don't get the whole north, we lost $250 million.
Yeah, we can pass on to them.
That's just a suggestion. I'm not saying we got to do that. But I got this here, Mary, if you want to see that. It's actually the Federal Department of Fee structure.
Yeah, I was thinking that sewer and water were excluded from that, but let me double check.
It may be, I don't know.
I'll double check, that's a good question.
Everyone's done the same issue. There's so much work happening, you just can't stop.
Biggest problem is Liberty. Everybody else is out of Liberty. That's why they're coming to us.
I know they are. I've got them.
Yeah, that's what I do. You got it.
Sorry, I got one more question. Does the location of the development, it's going to be dependent on the sewer system goes to, is that correct?
Our capacity works. We intervention last year with Dickens County, late 90s, early 2000s. We bought, and I want to say, it's on that sheet, I think it was at 400,000 or something. We bought an X percentage of capacity. Let's see, $400,000 for a lack of better words than that. In that 98, we have $400,000 capacity. We can allocate. Now, our allocation can go to point A or point B. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter from our standpoint. The only thing it does do is on the upgrades. Whenever this plant gets there first, with 80% capacity, it's got to be design, 85%, it's got to be construction, 90% it's got to be completion rate. We can only allocate what we purchased, which is that 400,000 gallons. We're down to 104,000 gallons of allocation. Where it goes from a county standpoint, they don't really carry it away from our standpoint, because they actually have, they still got 60% capacity in one plant, I want to say. Is it
This is, okay, but it's 60% here, and this is just over 50.
Yeah, so they don't, the plant don't really mind where it goes. So part of ours goes to Roper, part of it goes to 12 mile, basically. When we bought capacity, if we buy that capacity, we also bought the liability of any maintenance, any upkeep, any cost associated with it. This is one of the things when we talk about boards and commissions. We need to read the IGA. We need to advocate for our seats on the Public Service Commission. When they raise our rates, the first thing we do is report the Public Service Commission. They raise our rates. Well, actually, we raise our own rates, so we're not sitting at the table and being part of that discussion. Each year they do their budget, we need to sit at that table with our seat and our discussion, in my opinion. And appoint a council member or whoever try to attend those meetings. Just like me to become a council member. So.
I'm on it. I was actually talking to somebody today about that. So. Are we good on availability fees? Don't have any questions?
No.
The last one is the one that I've had so many questions about in the last couple of days. Come back on actually, so if we can hear. I was approached last Friday by our county councilman letting me know that the county is interested in the City of Liberty purchasing the Performing Arts Center. The county is no longer interested in continuing to keep that as a county building. They wanted us to have first call on that building since it does fit within our municipal bounds. And they want to, I've basically had a whole bunch of conversations between Friday and today, which is why I haven't said anything to anyone other than updates, just because it is a very flexible situation right now. I do not have any numbers on it. They have actually just asked us to put up a number that we would be interested in purchasing it for. I was also offered, and I thought it was a joke at first, but it was not, that they said we would be interested in a price or a trade, and I do not know what we are interested in trading. So, now you know what I know on that. There is going to be a walkthrough of the Performing Arts Center on March 20th. I do not have a time yet, I just have a date. If any of you would like to walk through that, just so we know what the entire building entails, the state of the building, all of that. I will try to make it in the afternoon if I can, so anybody that works day jobs can potentially go. But that will be on March 20th, just so we know what we're looking at, state of the building, square footage, all of that, so that we can, if we are actually interested in purchasing it, give them an actual number or trade or whatever we're doing. It's very
Trade them John. Let's trade John for it.
Trade John.
Are you thinking about using it as a Performing Arts Center? Or are you thinking about
It would continue. It would continue becoming a Performing Arts Center. Justin currently manages the building and hosts events and everything. He's the management team there. We would just be the new owner of the building.
I'd just like to say, so I got to meet Justin at the last concert he had, and Greenville County really wants them to go to Greenville County. And he does not understand why Pickens County does not want to help keep them here. They like where they're at, they want to be where they're at. So it's definitely very interesting that we might have a chance to have that building to help them.
Greenville County wants that to go to them.
All the events they're doing, things that they're doing. Justin and the events and stuff that he does at Range, they're wanting them in Greenville County. He likes the fact that Pickens County doesn't really have anything like what they're doing, and it's a good little area right between Clemson and so forth. He had people coming from as far as Maryland, Alabama, and I believe he had, I think it was Red Rock, but maybe it wasn't, to this last concert. They stayed in Clemson and easily in concert.
And it's like the Wahalla performance. I've been to that one several times. I mean, it's a good different, really. I mean, it's the same type.
Yeah, so I like it, and then they want to work with downtown and help benefit. They want to host and get them involved with the restaurants open later to help out with having these events. And as far as the crosswalk thing, I was there when they had a clogging event, which was a packed house, and a lot of people crossing right there. And it's very dangerous, but I like it.
There's actually a second part to this too. So that's the first part of it, that they would like to sell it to the City of Liberty. If we are not interested, we do need to let them know though, because they will look for potential other buyers.
Will they provide us with costs associated? I would love to see, I know what utilities used to do that.
I literally just found out Friday, and so I'm still trying to gather all those details.
We get costs associated
We
with
do.
all utilities.
Yep.
What maintenance liabilities, the air conditioning, one stage, there's a lot
Yep.
of things that we can do, all those liabilities there. For me, before I take on additional responsibilities, I don't know the existing properties we own and what that condition is and what our liability is there before I start asking responsibilities. And I'm not saying this is liabilities, I don't know. I think we need to look at what we have before we think about where we're going.
Right. Like I said, this is completely new
Oh, I
information. It
know.
was
I'm just
literally
saying
just
you
sprung
would
on me
need
on
to
Friday,
move
so yeah.
I'm just saying what I would need for me to move forward.
And I received approval from county council to bring this to you guys, just to kind of get an idea if you were even interested. Past interest, then we'll move into, is it feasible for the city? Is it a good move for us? Will it benefit us? What our costs are, all that stuff. But they just wanted to kind of gauge if you were even interested.
Yeah, you definitely want to look at their revenue stream as well, because if it's not a county facility and it's a city facility, that may change your revenue stream. So I don't know enough about it to know. Yeah.
I just don't want it to interfere with our local businesses that we have right now.
Agreed. So there's a second part to this. Justin actually reached out to me prior to county reaching out to me and he would actually like to host a town hall on March 23rd. And then I've talked to Clay Counts about kind of being the, host of that, who would actually be the moderator. He would actually like to host a town hall on March 23rd between the city businesses, and basically the constituents to discuss how businesses, city, and PAC can all work together. And he would like to do that on March 23rd. So that is the second part of this. I agree.
And I don't think it's fine to do anything like that.
Well, no, I just don't want to see with the city owning that building, releasing that building, I just don't want to see it with other businesses under, because he has big names coming there, so he's got a smaller company.
I don't know. I know that there's after that concert, and there was a good bit of people in the mountain of that. If they had a great night, I don't know, but it was pretty busy when I went in there. So they could work together and do after parties or anything before, et cetera.
Regardless of what happened, the buildings we sold, our parking lot belongs with that building, not the recreation building. We don't have such.
Correct, that whole parking lot, yeah.
When we did the deal,
All the way from,
all the parking lot belongs to the county.
It does.
Our supervisor. The city only has the footprint of the gymnasium.
And it's a madhouse. When they have an event, like they had a basketball game the same night that they had that concert, and it was just nuts trying to park. No rhyme or reason.
so March 20th walkthrough, I will get times for you guys. We'll put out public notice so as many people as want to can walk through. We'll do a full top to bottom of the pack and just take a look at it all together, just to get eyes, like I said, on everything so we know if we want to purchase it. And then we'll start talking about numbers. And then March 23rd is when we would like to host that town hall. Again, I would like to see as many of you out as possible. We'll invite just businesses. We'll put out for constituents. The city will actually release information on that directly on our site. You guys can just share it. And then last item I have is actually the budget retreat. I know Sierra put out some information to all of you today. We're trying to do the budget retreat on the 28th of March. I think we had 5, right, that could make that day.
I can do whichever. I didn't respond. I can do either one.
Okay. So we're going to try to do the 28th. It may need to be at City Hall. There is an event here at the Rosewood that starts around 10 or 11 in the morning, so we may need to host it at City Hall. I know usually the budget retreat is all of council, attorney, clerk, mayor, and then if probably will, but we're going to try to host it.
You need a bigger space right there.
I know. Oh, at the airport?
Oh, they got big control there. We used to do ours there. Yeah, that's bigger space.
We were looking at city buildings, we were like, where can we do that?
They actually got a big room in the back with big boardroom tables, got a thing to see. That's what the county normally does. And then they let you use it free of charge, I promise you.
All right. This is how the back we want to host it there.
Actually, should tell them to take the fact, they gotta give us the police department.
Oh, believe me.
And they
Believe me. Listen,
Let's go back to that, because I'm
listen,
going to the Trey offer.
listen, my first response was, if we buy the tax, we have a police department. And I got a But that is all I have. Does anybody else have any questions on the tax or the budget retreat?
I'll circle back to what I have there. Something to think about. We know where we are, so we can pass it. We're thinking about a moratorium. Until we figure out where we are, where we get.
We can, if you do a sewer reservation system, you can actually put an automatic moratorium in there so that when you reach a certain capacity or lack of capacity, that it just cuts off. It just slows the queue, you know.
I think the concern, I think we got better hands before Ruth did it. I mean, they were approving 500 homes for $150,000 gallons, $47,000 available. We got to make sure that we don't get in that situation ourselves. And it'll slip up on the second tee, and it'll slip on up on it before you know it slips up on it.
Yep.
Just something to think about.
Sound good?
I proposed on town not allowing people to take showers or flush the toilet on alternate days, but that didn't fly. So, it didn't help.
You want to look at Wednesday, Friday?
Thursday, Saturday.
You don't want to do your laundry on a certain day.
Only do laundry on Saturday. All right.